You failed. Is it over? Well, good news. The answer is no, depending on how you react, right? So the question is, what is next? This is Dean Tenney, aka the Series 7 Guru. I'd like to talk to you about 5 essential steps to responding to the misfortune of missing your mark. Number one, we're going to be talking about is don't panic, don't delay notifications. Number two, do a hot debrief. While the hurt is fresh, you want to go over that. We'll talk about each of these in depth. You want to review your failed study plan and then decide on additional resources you may want to put into the mix and then prepare for your next exam. So, first, let me assure you that many successful people in our industry have failed their exams. It's not as out of the ordinary as you'd think. I mean, passing the first time is ideal, but sometimes life is less than ideal. And how you respond to that is a good sign of how you're going to do in the business. So you'd be surprised how many people will come up to you and say, "Oh, I suffered that misfortune as well." One of my best brokers actually built it into his presentations. He'd go out and tell people, "Listen, if anybody understands this stuff, it's me. I had to take the test not once, not twice, 3 times. If anybody knows this stuff, it's me." People invest with you because they like you and they trust you, not because you did well on an exam or you can pass an exam. I can't prove it that back in the days when we gave scores, there was negative correlation to how well you would do in the industry versus your score. Over 90 didn't bode well for your future in the industry. Now, I know some of you are not going into sales, but even if you're in the support area, same thing. And I used to tease people who got a high score over 90. I'd say, "Listen, I think I should fire you right now. How am I going to supervise you if you're smarter than me?" And secondly, you're just proving you're big a jerk as the person who wrote the test. So I think I should just get rid of you now. So as I said, don't let it cloud your mind about your future success because people do business with you. If you're on the sales side, invest with you, or people continue on with you based on liking and trusting you, not passing tests. So, all right. So the first of our essential steps after you have missed the mark is to not panic and don't delay notifications. You know, Delaying the talking to the people who you need to inform isn't good. They're out there waiting on you. So whether it's going in to take the test and you have a time constraint, that's bad because it aggravates me when people say, "Oh, I had 10 questions, I didn't get them done." That's bad because you should have figured that out in your practice test and know how much time it took you to get through that. And about the time you should be done, people are looking at their watch going, "Man, where are they? Where's the update?" And people who are doing this for a while know that the longer that delay is, the potential worse news it is, right? It's kind of like if we're waiting outside the cave, you've gone in to slay the dragon. The longer we're outside the cave waiting on you, the more negative our thoughts are going to become about your success. So distinguish yourself by immediately making those notifications. Now, when you make those notifications to those appropriate parties, significant others, accountability partners, whoever it is, be positive. You know, that'll again distinguish you from how people usually respond to this misfortune. So do it as quickly as possible. That'll distinguish you, and be positive when you do so. The attitude you should have is there's no doubt that you're going to go down there and take this thing again and you're going to pass that second attempt. So that's the attitude you want. Don't be making excuses and blaming others. Nobody wants to hear that. If you had a reputable study test prep vendor, whether it be Kaplan or SDC or Pass Perfect or Knopfman Marks, nobody wants to hear that. It's aggravating to me that on a general securities principle social media community we have, that I had to tell these 9, 10s, and 24, stop with the stinking thinking. Nobody wants to hear it. It's not your test prep vendor. It's some other thing. So you know be accountable. If you're going to have something to blame your failed study plan. Don't get your self-esteem wrapped up in it, but don't be coming up with the common things like, "Oh, the test was nothing like my practice materials." So, that's not what people want to hear. Number two, while that fresh is hurt, I want you to do a personal plus minus debrief using either FINRA's content outline or the test specifications themselves from FINRA, right? So NASA does test specifications, FINRA does content outline. And I want you to do a plus minus on that. Just hit that, print that PDF. Now, par is passing. So depending on your exam, 72%, whatever the case may be. So if you are going through that document, you put a minus, that means you were below par and there's room for big improvement. And 0 means you were at par, and plus means you're above par. And then what you want to do is, go through that and make sure you put it away for when you start your study effort, so we know where we're going to focus on. Now, you probably, when you don't pass, a lot of times, when I look at somebody's printout, they almost passed every section on the test. They didn't have anyone where they were above par that took them over the top. So as you reinitiate your study plan, your new and improved study plan, make sure not only that you have things that are par, make sure you're bringing those things above par as well. Overlearn gives you a margin of safety. You don't want to just barely know it. You want to be operating from abundance, not scarcity. Now, why, after you've done that plus minus debrief, while it's hot and the misfortune is fresh, that's the best time to do it. And after you've done that, well, then that's time now to refresh and reset. Whether it's 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, give yourself a chance to let your brain housing group kind of recover emotionally and mentally before you start turning to and get back on executing your new study plan. So our next essential step is number 3. Review your failed study plan and make changes. This could start with your debrief. It could have started in, number 1 when you did that debrief, and that can jog your memory about things you did. Maybe you followed bad advice. Maybe somebody told you just do practice questions and, learn through missing questions. You don't need to read the book. If you got bad advice, don't follow that again, right? So, hopefully there'll be something there that you can make an improvement on in terms of that. And as I said, when you're executing your new and improved study plan, make sure you overlearn everything, right? You don't want to be messing around or flirting again with barely passing. You want to be overlearn and be above par in all the sections or all the content on your exam. So that, by the way, that happens a lot, by the way. People who miss the mark, they go back, and a lot of them just blow through because they've seen it once, they know what they did, and they can take a change in course and, change the course and direction of their study plan, and they come out with flying colors. So that's pretty typical. So you should have high hopes. Okay, number 4 in our 5 essential steps in response to the misfortune of failing your exam is consider the additional resources you can deploy. What you didn't do in the first thing. So, for example, maybe you want to take advantage of some office hours. I provide for my alumni free office hours. A lot of times in those office hours, we have people who have missed their mark and they're taking advantage of that to kind of go over some things. Tutoring, I tutor, others tutor. Maybe you need a tutor to plug the gap somewhere in your original study plan. Please get plugged into a community of some sort. We have our Reddit communities, our sister Reddit communities. We have our YouTube community. We have our Tuesday live streams. But it's disheartening when the first time we've heard from a community member is when they uncloak to tell us that they have missed the mark. I really do think that the difference could be being active and plugged in as you're executing your study plan. So if you didn't do that in your first study plan, please do that in the execution of your next study plan. Get plugged in, get some additional resources, get what you think you might need to make your mark. And then the 5th and last step in executing our, 5 essential steps is, get back on the horse, right? Get your new test date. You need a test date. You should get the new test date as soon as possible. Now, that 30-day wait period will not prevent you from booking a new date. You can go past 30 and it'll let you you make a date. Set the date quick enough. You don't want this to go too long. So I would be a believer in it. As soon as that 30-day wait period is over, let's get a new test date and then reverse engineer your new and improved study plan. I have a podcast episode on developing a study plan. You might want to check that out in terms of how it compares to your initial study plan. And again, new and improved, right? Now, good news, once you have passed your mark, you're going to have passed 2 tests. You're going to pass the second attempt on your exam, as well as a test of your resiliency. And your resiliency, passing that test, recovery from the misfortune and how you responded, how you distinguished yourself through immediate notification, staying positive, not blaming others, all those things are indicators of your future success in the securities industry. So I hope you found that helpful. And by way of review, the 5 essential steps are not to panic, don't delay notifications, do a hot debrief with yourself, review your failed study plan, what additional resources can you bring into the mix, and prepare for your next exam. And I'm sure you'll get that pass you're entitled to. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch, and yard by yard, your exam is hard.